Occasionally, I do what I call a little behind the scenes episode, and this is one of those. So, when I say behind the scenes, this is kind of what's actually going on for me personally with my health and business and how I am navigating that. And always comes with the caveat that, I'm navigating this as well, and despite professional knowledge and experience doesn't always go quite according to plan, but I hope it is helpful for me to articulate, what goes on now and again, how I try and accommodate for that, how I try and recover if something doesn't go according to plan. So I'll just speak to you about this last week or so. In the UK here, we've had a few days of really hot, gorgeous, lovely hot weather, then back to more cold. And I've had a good week, but it's been full of activity and some unexpected things outside of my control that I've not been able to account for, but then I've had to make changes in retrospect. So I'm going to take you back to just over a week ago, and I have a structure to my week every week with the goal of being home-based at least 3 days a week, usually Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and going out to a workplace on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And the Wednesdays, I always try to schedule really as little as possible in terms of structured fixed work or appointments, because I need that recovery time in the middle of the week. Okay, sorry, we just had a Pedro stop. Right. So I normally schedule so that my Wednesdays are a midweek kind of recovery day. It doesn't mean I don't do anything, but it means that I try to do less. And the ultimate goal is to really not work at all on a Wednesday, to have a complete rest day. Now, going back a couple of years, that would always mean catching up on any of what I call kind of home and life admin, and then basically having to sleep in the afternoon to regain my energy for the rest of the week. Now, as time's gone by and my health has improved, that's not been as critical, but I'm also very conscious that it's becoming easier and easier to fill that day up with activity and still not get that rest time. So the Wednesday before last, I have had literally marked in my diary with strict instructions to myself to take myself out for a walk in the countryside for the day. The only work item I had in was connecting with a colleague, which was lovely, pleasant, productive, and then heading out for this walk. So that's what I did. I actually also combined that walk with meeting with a friend. So that also adds to, the benefits of connection, being outdoors, and a different form of rest and recuperation. Now, what we hadn't accounted for was the heat. And it was a really, really hot day. I had a lovely day. But I think I got dehydrated. So it was a great day, but it wasn't physically restful. It wasn't cognitively restful, although it was all different to my usual work. And the added heat, though, and that basically increased dehydration. And for me, dehydration becomes quite a problem in that it seems to kick off other symptoms and side effects related to my blood condition. So although I'd planned for it to be a recovery day, it actually, in fact, physiologically drained my system. And I already had busy days on the Thursday, the Friday, and actually the Saturday as well. I had some work activities to do on the Saturday. Now, none of this was difficult. It was just busy with no opportunities for rest. So it took me several days to realise really what had happened, because I was feeling generally unwell, feeling tired. And when that happens for me, what starts to happen is that my mood begins to drop. As my fatigue increases, basically, and my perspective on things starts to get a little bit skewed. And then what can follow is just a sense of I haven't got energy to do anything. How am I ever going to get going again? It's like I sink into a place of despair and hopelessness. And that may sound a little bit dramatic, but it's quite a quick descent. And if I don't recognise and look for what has triggered that off, I can find myself wallowing, I guess, in that place for some time. Now, I was going to do this little episode on Monday, but I still felt pretty yuck on Monday, low in motivation, feeling, well, what's the point? And feeling like I have nothing to say, because that's the other interesting thing, is that when I go to that place, I really feel I have nothing to say. Partly because of mainly because my cognitive function is what is dropping off. And when my cognitive function drops off, I would describe it as not being able to think in a straight line. And so my strategy, once I have one, so first of all, I have to recognise what's gone on. So in this case, I recognise that I got actually really very dehydrated. By the weekend, I was having quite a lot of headaches, feeling very fatigued. So the first thing, once I realised that this is what had happened, was to schedule in some rests that I hadn't planned for, to increase my water intake, to tighten up my food plan for the weekend, and then to give myself some grace. And we talk a lot about self-compassion and kindness, and remembering that I have a long-term condition that on the whole now is managed really well, and most of the time I almost forget about it. And it's times like this when I am reminded that it's still there, and I still need to ensure that my basic needs are met. And in this case, I did take plenty of water with me because I knew it was going to be hot. We also changed the route because I knew it was going to be hot. However, those plans didn't really mitigate for the consequences. So I guess what I want to say from this is that, things happen. You can make the best laid plans. You can have everything in place to ensure that you're looking after your health. And even then, things can end up not the way you'd hoped, because, honestly, we can't control what's going to happen in life. But when I'm now able to spot the symptoms, that there's something about my physiology that needs changing, whether that is hydration, nutrition, rest, exercise, and giving my brain a break, not expecting it to work all the time at 100% power, then I can give myself permission to take time out to recover and restart. And it reminds me of a conversation I had with somebody a couple of years ago who, it was interesting, different perspective, that they felt their goal was to create a stable, consistent energy level in their work and their home life all the time. That was their goal, to maintain this stability all the time. And maybe that's possible for some people, but I think if you have a long-term condition and it can fluctuate and it can be affected by external factors, that we have to have structure. The cyclist passing now. We have to have structure. I have to have structure so that we have a framework within which we can give ourselves some predictability. But that framework also needs to have flexibility, so that when things don't necessarily go according to plan, something unexpected comes up, external conditions change, that we can flex and give ourselves whatever it is that we need, whether that's time for eating, sleeping, what have you. So that's what I wanted to share today, to just give you a little bit of an insight into how it doesn't always go quite according to plan, and how I have recovered from it, because I have made a recovery from it, is that I put that rest in, I increased my water intake, I tightened some of my nutrition, allowed myself a little bit of flexibility on that, has to be said. And then what I did with my work was, I didn't have a lot of obvious flex time in my diary this week, but actually when I came to it and looked at it, my clinic days were quite quiet. So in those times, I blocked out the remaining time to ensure that I got some recovery. I also had a very busy day on Wednesday this week because I had to switch some work from another week, and I ended up going to an event, which I always love, but it's always very busy and quite tiring. And the main thing, okay, another dog interlude there. So sorry, what I just wanted to finish off with was what I have done to recover from it. So I still had a really busy week this week with not a lot of opportunity for physical rest. So I have been aware of my the physiological needs that we've already just talked about, but also where I have to go with my thinking, because my cognitive processes, my thinking is really gets knocked off. And I had to begin my week by just literally saying, right, what are the top 2 things that I need to do today? And that's literally how I started the week. What are the most important 2 things that I must get done? And that included paying a bill, and it included emailing somebody. And then after that, see how I am, see if I am able to do another couple of things on that list. And actually what I discovered was that as I got those really important tasks ticked off, that then my brain started to open, if you like, a little bit more to the other things that I needed to do. It relaxed because I dealt with the immediate priorities, and then actually I really got into some of the work that I was doing. And I guess I tapped into what do I enjoy the most, and I spent some time reading, and that led to creating another one of these little podcasts. And actually it ended up being a really great day, and the rest of the week has flowed from there. And I do need rest. So the day that I have today, it's Friday today, I have an early finish scheduled, and I have a relaxing yoga class to go to this evening, and then I have a weekend which has very little commitments in it, so I'm able to spend the time catching up and or resting in whatever way my body and mind need. So I hope that's been a helpful reflection. I've not always been able to do this. I have also been a person who used to just push through, getting cross with myself that I couldn't keep performing consistently in the way that I expected myself to, that for whatever reason I couldn't think and couldn't do stuff, and I would just push and try and get it done and then get angry with myself, which of course is not self-compassion and not self-kindness and not caring. So an upside of developing a serious and chronic illness can be learning how to reframe these experiences and learning to listen to your body, and to then give yourself the space to work out what it is you need in that moment and in the coming days, and potentially the coming weeks too. If you would like any help navigating a similar situation, then do get in touch. Have a look at my website, returntoworkmentor.co.uk, and you can see a range of services there. And this approach fits really under the health and business strategy, where we're looking at your long-term strategy of how you handle life-changing injury, serious injury, illness, and a long-term condition, and flexing how you work for the future so that you can continue to live and work in the ways that you really want to.